Hey everyone, I'm back here with Sierra Smith from Sun Peak Official. And today, our weekly topic, we're going to talk about student loans and how it can kind of put you behind your financial journey. And for Sierra, she has a experience in this, so I want to let her to start on this.
Yeah, so this was on my mind because it is nearing the time when student loans are going to be due again, and I was needing to set up my repayment plan and kind of figure out how we're going to tackle what's left for us. So, yeah, I am very much not looking forward to this, but obviously knew it was hanging over my head. So we're going to be back at it. So let's talk about some student loan stuff.
Yeah. So what time frame did you go to school, or when did you take out these loans?
I was in college from 2010 to 2014.
Okay, a lot later. So I was in the mid 90s. So I fortunately didn't have to take out any student loans. So I went to the University of Hawaii and in-state tuition. I want to say it was around 1,500 a semester around that time. So it wasn't too bad. But so I definitely didn't need to do that, but I can see how it can put a burden on you and kind of hinder your financial future. So what is your experience with it?
So I took out loans, I think every semester except for one, maybe, that I ended up not having to take out a loan for. Now, I didn't probably have to take them out. My experience was that I just thought I was supposed to, I guess. And I mean, this is where the financial literacy really comes into play here, is because I just didn't have any financial education, even from the school counselor to my parents. Like, no one was really fluent in how the student loan system was working, or how the interest rates worked, or anything like that. And of course, as a millennial, I know that my generation in particular was definitely of the mindset that a college degree was going to get you the best paying job that you could get, in the field that you were most interested in. And that was kind of the path that was really, really encouraged. And I know it's still encouraged now, but there is a lot more awareness out there, I think, about salaries and what people are earning versus the debt they're taking on. And I don't know that, at least at the time, I was not aware of any of great information in regards to all of that. So I went to college my first semester, and I did have a full scholarship for housing and tuition. I think I had to cover my books, um, and that may have been it, or maybe a little bit a part of my tuition or something like that. But I took out loans, not the max amount, but I took out one or two every semester. And racked up a decent amount. But according to your averages that you were reading before we hopped on here, I'm still way below average as far as the amount of student debt that I have.
Yeah, so what I found was, according to like 2020, the average debt was 28,000. So are you anywhere close to that? Or I mean,
Well, let's see. Not now. I mean,
yeah.
I did pay on them up until the forbearance, or until the pandemic kind of altered things. And even then we paid for a few months until it looked like there was some negotiation about part of the balances being wiped out. So that's kind of when we stopped. But um my balance now is nowhere near that. And I'm trying to think of what it was when I initially started. I want to say that it was under 20,000 by the time I was done with my school. And some of that, I will say, when we bought our first house in college, I know that I we used some of that money to make repairs on that house. Not intentionally, but I did take out loans, to help with living expenses. And then when we ended up buying the house, we were able to pay for updating some of the appliances and some of the stuff out of the money that I had taken from my student loan. So it didn't necessarily apply directly to my real estate investment. But then by the time we sold a couple of years later, obviously we recouped all that cost, and we did pay off a big chunk of student loan debt with some of the money.
So how easy was it to get a student loan? I guess that I never had to really look into it very much. So like, Was it an easy process, or is there a lot of people? How easy is it?
Very easy. I think you fill out your FAFSA form at the beginning of the year, which kind of, I think you have to document like your parents' income, and then it will create like what student loans you're eligible for. And then when you have your account with the college, you just log in and it will have the amounts that you're eligible for. And then you just type in you can accept up to that full amount. You don't have to take out the full amount. This is the way I remember it. Totally could be different now. But you can type in the box, like if it says, you're eligible for 4 different loans, one's for 3,000, one's for 5,000. These might be subsidized or unsubsidized and have different interest rates attached to them. But you can type in like, I want $2,000 of this $3,000 loan. And then you just check a little box that says accept. And then I'm sure there's like a disclosure form that click accept on, and then that money is transferred into your college account that usually directly applies to your tuition. And then, or sometimes it will go into your bank account if you're taking out more than what the tuition balance is, to pay your bill, and then also have money to live on.
So it sounds like it's an easy process to get a student loan. And like you said, they don't really tell you maybe the pros and cons of taking out this loan. Like if you look back on it, is it something that you would do again?
Um, hmm.
I mean, like how would you factor, I guess, like, is it worth taking out? Like, you think there's a way that they should be telling, okay, if you're gonna earn this much amount, it's worth taking out this loan, or should it be based on how much um your field might earn once you graduate?
Oh, so you want to know how I would fix this system?
Well, since you actually went through it, like, do you
Uh-huh.
think, taking out that student loan has, I guess, benefited you in the way that you thought you were going to get a certain return on your degree, maybe?
So I would say, had I pursued the path I was intending to at the time, yeah, I guess so. I could have taken out less. Like I said, if I would have realized how the repayment process was going to work and how the interest rates accrued versus like a simple interest, and the differences there, I think that I would have approached it differently. I think that I still could have, having the degree did, at least at the time when I graduated, it still made me eligible for jobs that were having that college degree as a prerequisite, but not understanding that they really weren't, the earning potential wasn't really there for, in comparison to other jobs, but it was a field I wanted to be in that otherwise I wouldn't be eligible to be in. So there was a little bit of a gated entry to get into, I was in psychology and I wanted to be in the mental health field, and you couldn't do that without a degree. So having access to that, because that's the direction I wanted to go, I think was worth it just as far as satisfaction with my own life. But I would have definitely handled trying to cash flow my tuition versus taking on the debt, because I did work during college. I had some scholarship stuff, and then but I did not get any assistance from like my parents or family. Like I paid for my own college experience out of my own pocket. So I know some people who might have assistance or other a savings fund set up for them, that where they're not taking on quite as much debt to get the degree, so it may be more worth their time to go through that process.
I think the hardest part for me is, as a 18-year-old, 19-year-old, you're asking this person to make this decision and borrow this money in the belief that they're gonna earn it back once they graduate. And like I look back and I had no idea what I really wanted to do as far as working, employment, and even to this, I graduated with an accounting and finance degree, and I've never used it. And I don't, if I took out a student loan at that time, I definitely wouldn't have got the return back on my investment. So I think that's the hardest part, is asking 18 or 19-year-old to make this decision. And like you said, it's so easy to access. No one really explains the pros and cons of it. And you just think, oh yeah, it's available. I'm going to take advantage of it. And to some extent it is, like you say, it's good to take advantage of it because it allows you to get a degree or help alleviate some of the costs. But if in the long run, it definitely can set you behind and set you, it kind of put you behind in your financial future. So I think that's the hardest part is trying to ask someone at such a young age to make this decision. And they said we don't learn about finances and money also as we're growing up a lot of times. So it just makes that decision a lot harder. So, let's, you kind of brought it up a little bit already about fixing the system or what you would do to maybe change it. So, in your opinion or view, like, is there any way to make this student loans maybe a better for the next generations?
Well, I do think salary transparency is a great start. And like I said, I think we have a lot more awareness about, what people's earning potential is with certain degrees now. Um, and I kind of alluded to like if I had intended on the path that I was headed down, like I got a psychology degree knowing that a bachelor's in psychology wasn't going to get me, a salary that would justify the amount of student loan debt that I was accumulating, but my intention was to get my PhD and be practicing. But then by the time I, started to evaluate getting a graduate degree and the amount of debt that was going to take on, it really just started to seem not worth it. And so that kind of changed my trajectory at that point. But I think one of the, other than financial literacy and just, awareness of pay, I think that doing away with the 2 years of general education at the beginning of every degree, when the whole point of getting the degree is to get into a specified, field or something that is very niched down. And I think the 2 years of gen eds and saying that, you need a 4-year degree when so many of those classes are irrelevant to what you're going to do. I think that is a part of the system that is extremely flawed and extremely costly for a lot of students. Not only do a lot go to junior college to get that 2 years of prerequisites for, a more affordable rate, but then a lot of times that doesn't transfer to the 4-year school that they want to go to, and they end up having to retake classes, which is another costly expense. And so there's a lot around that initial 2 years of kind of basically repeating high school, but with a little more rigor that I think is just a giant waste of money, time, and a way that and of your life. Like there's really no reason at that point for you to repeat all of those classes. So that is the main thing that I would do. And not only does that, mean that your degree is going to be half price, and it's also going to take half the time. And then you could also spend that 2 years going further in your field and being, even more of an expert, which would probably lead you to more earning potential than by the time you'd have your 4 years of the way it's currently set up.
Yeah, I think kind of what you're saying is it's easy to access student loans. And then after that, it becomes difficult, like you're saying, trying to maybe switch what major you're going to go into or trying to figure out what major you're going to go into. So the process to get the loan is easy. But then after that, everything else, like you're saying, some credits may not transfer here. And then now, like you say, you're already headed down this path. And now you might be stuck in this direction and you're like, I have this much debt. I don't want to take on any more. I'm just going to
Mm-hmm.
finish whatever degree I'm getting right now. And I think that's what happens to a lot of people is they, like you're saying, they kind of get on this path and then they start realizing, oh, this may not be what I want to do, but I don't want to start over and I don't want to take out more student loans. So yeah, I think the system is very flawed. I think it's a great idea to give everyone the opportunity to go to college and get a degree, but there has to be some sort of education awareness to it or financial education and how you got to realize, like you're saying, how much you think the return on taking out this loan is going to be. And like I said, as we were doing this research and for this topic, and I couldn't believe how much the dental people have a average of student debt. I mean, we found in 2020 it was like 300,000 the dental school debt is, and I couldn't
Wow.
believe that. Yeah. And luckily, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if they'll ever be able to pay that back. I mean, like they said, a lot of these medical professional people, they make a lot of income, but they're paying a lot in student debt, and that's kind of how we get trapped into this system a lot of time. Like they say, go to school, right off the bat, take out debt, student loan debt, and now you have debt, and then now you got to work because you want to pay that back. So you get into the W-2 job and start paying that back, and then you're putting money. They tell you put your money in your retirement account. So you're falling into that system, and now that money is not yours until like you're 59 and a half. So you're just
Hmm.
put into this path and put into this system. And I think, there's a lot that needs to change, and people just need self education. That's what I'm finding is I'm learning a lot more just doing my own research and talking to people like you and
Yeah, and that seems to be the kind of the direction, or at least I'm hearing a lot more, a lot more people speaking to college being irrelevant in the future, whereas and kind of shifting to you're going to be getting like these certifications or taking coursework from people who are elite in their field and who are creating coursework around what they do and their research and their skill set, and you're going to be able to learn from them versus learn from um at a university, and you're going to have those skill set, and more employers are going to want to just see you demonstrate your ability versus you show that you have a degree. So I think that things are definitely shifting in that regard, and it does seem like a lot of people are starting to create coursework around what they do, and I think that is a big I think that's a big indicator of where things are headed. So I think that's something to keep in mind as far as there's always going to be a place for the university, I think, in academia. But as far as degrees to access your career, I don't know that that is going to be staying relevant.
yeah, I'm interested to see what the future holds for university. Like, is it going to be just all YouTube University and everything is going to be taught online, and that way you're not going to have all this overhead of these big campuses, and people are just paying. You can reach thousands and thousands or millions of people actually, on YouTube. So it's going to be
Mm-hmm.
interesting to see. And I think that's the big issue too, right? Is if student loans are available now, universities can pretty much charge whatever tuition they want because
Right.
people can take out these loans now.
Right. And I mean, I don't want to say that, the experience of going to college isn't valuable,
Yeah.
because it for sure is. And learning how to network and learning how to, you know, do life independently is important, and that's worth something. And obviously I've taken skills that I have learned from college and applied it to all of my endeavors. So there is some value there, but there's not one right way to do life either. So it kind of depends. I think that, the other thing I was going to bring up too was I when I posted on my story, if anyone had, anything to say about student loans or any questions for today, people were saying that it seems to be common that a lot of people set aside their payment. Not everyone did, but it seems to be common that a lot of people set aside their payment and are either going to take that lump sum and pay off what balance they have, or pay out from it. And they were kind of like asking if that's the right way to do it now that they have this lump sum. And I think that you have to really, because the student loan interest rates are fairly low in comparison to what interest rates in general you can get right now, that some of the people said they had the balance in a high yield savings account, or that's earning more interest than what their student loan payment interest is. And so I think you have to really weigh like how much interest can you earn versus paying off the amount. And, for us, we ended up putting that money towards paying off our car. So we don't have a car payment now. And we, put some of that money, like we were saving it, and not, I wouldn't say saving it. We were allocating it to be for student loans. And then when we got our rental property, we thought, well, if we put this money towards the down payment on that, then it's going to cash flow more than our student loan payments. So now we have that to cover our student loan payments when and if they ever kick back in.
Yeah.
And so, being thoughtful about how you're using that chunk of money is still really important.
Yeah, so you see, you're doing it the right way, but it's going to be interesting to see how many people actually did that while there was the forgiveness on the student loan or forbearance on the student loans. And, what's going to happen if it does restart? Because that's, you know, money, basically being taken out of the economy when people have to pay back these loans. And that's going to, inflation, we're going to see what's going to happen with inflation with these people, less money going in. So, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. And,
Yeah, but with even with the save plan that they've rolled out, I mean, a lot of people's monthly payment will be zero. So I don't know how, I mean, in some ways, I do think it will take money out of the economy and mitigate some inflation. But I think a lot of people will qualify for that save plan where their monthly payment is like between $35 and zero. Like it's going to be so low. Now their balance doesn't decrease much,
yeah.
but they will be, eligible for forgiveness after paying for 10 years or not paying for 10 years, but having their balance sit there 10 years plus, depending on what they started with. So I think it's not, I mean, we could do something like that where instead of, paying the 300 a month or so that we would combined have due, we could pay, $35. But then our balance would sit there for until they've decided to either forgive it or change their minds. And that's the thing, is that we kind of got to the point where we're like, we're going to risk spending this money and the payment coming due before we get something, cash flowing back in, money coming back into our pocket. But there was just so much uncertainty that I feel for people who just didn't decide to do anything with it. They were just like, well, I don't know, it might be due in 3 months or a year, or they might change their minds again and waive it. So it's, there was some risk involved in how to allocate that money. But as long as you just kind of think through all of your options, you might be able to invest that money somewhere that's going to give you a better return to both, put money in your pocket and make the payment on your debt.
Yeah, that's super important. So you should have like a course on that, on how you should be preparing for student loan payments and whatnot, and how to return on investment, and kind of what you can be doing with that money in preparedness if they do start collecting payments again. But um, yeah. So was there a lot of feedback on your post on Instagram, like questions and
Just a few, mostly, talking about what to do with that chunk if they had set it aside, and then asking if there were any, hacks to repaying them where they could, essentially pay less or pay less over time, or if they should go for a lower monthly payment, but pay more over time. And I think it just really depends on if you're going to be able to make more on that monthly
yeah.
payment, by keeping, some of it in your pocket, or peace of mind is worth something too. If you're just ready to knock it out, if you have some low balance ones and you're just like, I don't want to deal with this anymore, that's worth something too. If you just don't like having the payments or the debt hanging over you. And I know that, when you go to apply for a mortgage, that debt to income ratio is going to be adjusted based on those student loan payments now that you are going to have. So you may want to knock them out for that reason, so that your debt to income ratio looks a little better.
I love it. This is always fun. I mean, you always come up with some great topics, and I wish, I could have been more helpful on this, I guess, in a sense. But since I didn't take out student loans, I didn't really have too much as far as an experience with it. But I'm glad you did.
Do you
And
think that with your accounting and finance degree that you could learn what you learned in college? Could you learn it all now via YouTube or with free resources and still be able to um, provide a service?
yeah, I think so, definitely. I think part of the problem is that, you go to college and you're kind of set up structured in a certain way. So I learned things that would have made me a good employee. But I
Right.
think now I've learned more that helps me actually be able to understand business or finances, or actually how to use these degrees in a certain way. But at the time, Yeah, I think it just teaches you how to be more of an employee, like, where to put this number in this box, or where this payment is going to go in this box. And so, yeah, you're kind of led down this path to be an employee.
Yeah.
So, and do you also want to talk about your other degree that you were going down, and how that will, the return on that investment, what was your Hebrew language?
My
Um,
my minor in Middle Eastern studies.
yes.
Yeah, I mean, if I spoke fluent Arabic, which I was on the path to doing that, I think my earning potential would be pretty high.
Really?
Oh yeah, a government job where I could be nearly bilingual and with the middle anyone in the Middle East. I think there's some potential there, I think.
Oh,
And that was what my professor was advising, that the government jobs where if you could speak Arabic um would pay very well. Now, I just did not have a desire to have any sort of dealings with where I was the middleman between our government and anyone in the Middle East. Like that's just really not the kind of pressure in my life that I wanted to take on. So but so I never ever pursued that path. Had I guess I probably could have got into a position pretty lucrative, but not anything I would have wanted to do, I don't think. So anyway, yeah, that degree didn't happen.
I don't even know how you get started in that. Like, how do you like?
Well, not it's who you know for sure. Um, yeah, it's who you know.
But you had interest in that already, or it's like you saying someone kind of told, oh, this is a good field to go into, or
Did I have interest in the Middle East?
yeah, like how, like I don't know, like I've never really heard anyone, oh, this is what I want to study, or
Well,
like make a
uh,
career out of it.
yeah, I don't really know that I had to have a foreign language, for my degree. So I had to pick
Okay.
something, and I couldn't seem to get, like I said, I avoided anything I wasn't super successful at. And the Spanish classes, I couldn't seem to I don't know. I didn't enjoy them as much, I guess, and I just couldn't
Yeah.
seem to put in the effort to do it. But the Arabic ones, I liked the professor, and so I just ended up going that direction. And she was the one who really, you know, expressed the options that were there for if I wanted to continue down that path. And I did entertain it, and I took some, I had to take more than just the Arabic classes in the Middle East. I had to take, Middle Eastern geography and religions and the culture and all of those to get the minor in it. And but yeah, there just wasn't a career path that was associated that was that of interest. I did use it, like I said, to help with uh refugees. So I was able to that was the only time I was able to really put it to use, was when refugees were coming over from the Middle East and getting rehomed, and they needed someone who could speak a little bit of Arabic, and so I was somewhat helpful in that regard. But it's always been interesting to me, because now when I'm in like a store with anyone who's speaking Arabic and I can kind of pick up on a few words, I like feel compelled to like say hi or something in Arabic, and I'm like, they're gonna think that there's no way. Like, it would just be shocking to have like that come out of my mouth and like join in on a conversation. So it's more of like a party trick at this point. So very expensive one.
All right. Well, we can dig deeper into this next time, then. I mean, I'm sure you have some, like you said, you have maybe some party stories to tell about using this, but maybe that can be our topic for next week. But thanks again for being here. I love it. It's fun, and we'll do it again.
Sounds good.